welcome to A Gem of a Secret podcast. My name's Donatella My Secrets.
And my name is Coco Gem Holiday.
How you doing tonight, Coco?
I don't know. This might be the last time I say that name if I decide to change my drag name in January. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see.
You still haven't fully decided?
I haven't. Because I was like, not to like jump into this, but I've been through a lot of cancellations. So I don't necessarily want to change my drag name because I don't want people to think it's because of the cancellations. Yeah. I've been thinking about doing it for like several years, and I finally had gotten the courage to do it, but I don't want people to think it's because of that reason.
Yeah.
So.
Because people have done it for that reason before.
Yeah, especially in this city.
Yeah.
So. But I'm doing great.
Well, that's lovely. I have since decided to kind of hang up all the wigs on the shelf and focus on other things. I'm still Donna. I'm still here. But I think that if I ever did return to drag of like really any kind, I would kind of completely redo like the persona that I was doing. I just, as far as like where I'm at in my life, a lot of what drag revolves around is like liquor sales and alcohol and being out at bars, and it's just not a place I want to be in my life now or really anytime soon until I could say that I've like lived without this for a while, because I think did have some issues before.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Just recently, I have been doing a lot more stand-up comedy gigs, which are still kind of like in drinking-related venues, but some haven't been, and they've actually been really cool. And it is a different dynamic, actually. Like a lot of comics, from what I've seen, I don't know a lot about this scene, so I don't want to say anything off or wrong. I just want to talk about my experiences. So I apologize if I do say anything that's weird or that's not what the scene's like at all, but or if it's just naive. But like usually when I'm at one of these comedy shows, I don't see them like throwing it back before they go on.
Yeah.
Like with drag artists, we definitely see like a few cocktails before performances and whatever. But like with comedy shows, I'm not seeing them like pound back the alcohol as much as they do for drag shows.
Yeah, and like, drink tickets are a big thing, and I don't know if that's... I'm sure at comedy shows there are drink tickets. I think that's for any kind of performance.
I've never been offered any.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying... Once again, I don't know if that's maybe they just have forgotten.
Yeah.
I think in a couple of them I got some drink tickets.
Yeah.
But I have noticed when I gave comics drink tickets, they were like, oh, wow, that's so great.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not super
customary.
Common? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think that coupled with like the fact that you're in the bar, and I mean we used to say it, like more drinks more fun, like just getting people to drink, so then you are getting a good payout for the night. Like a lot of the time when you're a drag entertainer, your payout depends on how good you push liquor sales that night.
Right.
And so for me it's just like something I can't really in good conscience like participate in, knowing that I've struggled with alcohol for as long as I have, and be promoting it when I feel very removed from it.
The one thing that's kind of interesting to me, like, not to dog on it at all, but every time I've tried to do a sober event in this city, it's always bombed. It's so ridiculous how people will consistently keep asking me for it, and then I'll throw it. I remember this one time, like when we were doing sober pride, like to do a pride celebration that was sober.
Yeah.
None of the people who said that they were going to come showed.
Yeah.
And that was really disappointing. And I think that they're like, and then also of course the bar did abysmal.
Yeah.
Because like they're only getting their money from food sales and mocktails, right? And so like across the board for the performers, for the bar, for the patrons, like it just really wasn't a fun experience. I think when you have like sober events that they need to be, I don't know. I feel like the recipe has to be right?
I feel like they can't really be at bars, honestly. I think that's what a lot of like recovery places kind of have issue with, is if there's like a sober event that's being thrown at a place that has like, even if it is a sober event, I think because of the venue that it's in, it could be potentially like triggering, you know. I think it's
Yeah, that's a possibility, but I
yeah,
do also think that the recipe isn't there for drag at least.
yeah,
Like I feel like maybe all ages would help with that,
yeah,
like, or not all ages, because that also hinders the art of drag. Like the recipe has to be, everybody has to feel like they're not losing something, right? So
yeah,
like maybe it's an 18 plus event at a non-bar location, getting some of the 18 plus performers as well, because they always have huge followings,
mm-hmm,
and then maybe the venue and the entertainers split the door.
yeah,
That way the venue makes some money,
yeah,
right? Something like that. Like the recipe just wasn't right, and
yeah,
that's what I wasn't like it wasn't the sober people's fault. I mean, sure, some of them said they could and they didn't, but like
mm-hmm,
regardless, the recipe just wasn't right.
yeah,
So it just has to be more and I feel like that's the other thing too, like when it comes to sober events, is like I don't feel like enough thought's being put into what that actually looks like for people.
yeah, yeah.
Like because there's so much more than just the sobriety aspect of it. It still has to be fun and entertaining.
I think that yeah, definitely, and I think that there needs to be more. I think there needs to be more sober spaces that are primarily for that. You know, like tea houses. You know, something that is a little bit queer that could also be like an entertainment or performance venue as well.
Yeah, or even like a place that's like a vegetarian
Yeah,
restaurant. Just like the recipe has to be right.
yeah,
And instead of just trying to fit square pegs into round holes, right?
mm-hmm.
Like, and which is actually kind of interesting. This isn't, it's kind of a tangent, but it also kind of brings us to our episode today, which is we're doing a year end review,
Yeah,
actually. The way you said, yeah.
yeah, yes.
Yes. God, that's so stupid. So this year has been hell for me
Yeah,
because with all the positives, and but the negatives were just really loud this year,
yeah.
like horribly loud.
Well, it's because you were so big about saying how much of a good year you had, despite it being 2020 last year. It had to come extra hard for you this year.
It did have to come from me real bad.
Yeah,
The funny thing is, like, the thing that made 2020 great was my relationship, and my relationship has and consistently and continually grows, which I
yeah,
love that. Like,
yeah,
I love it reminds me of the last episode of Charmed. I don't know why they thought of this, but like um Phoebe, who's like the person who always like went through all the loving relationships that were hard and horrible throughout the whole
mm-hmm,
series. In the very last episode, she says, she's like, it's something like the lines of like, I've been in love but I'd never known love
mm-hmm.
until this person. And I was just like, oh, I was like, yeah, I kind of feel that way. Like I've seen it. I thought I knew it, but I've never really known it until now.
Yeah, yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
I hope to know it someday. Yeah, I'm focusing on loving myself a lot right now, which I think is needed.
Yeah, I think especially with this year, like every also like people had to be more resilient this year because with COVID, we had like regular COVID, Delta, and Omicron all in the
Mm-hmm.
same year, right? And so like when the bars started reopening in June, and like people, and not just the bars, the world started reopening in June. Like capacity limits were going down,
Mm-hmm.
cases were going down in June, and then we sneezed and Delta was here, and then
Yeah,
suddenly everything was like going back to like restrictions and blah 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 blah. Like that was a really difficult time for us as a community, like a world community. And then literally over the last 3 weeks, like Omicron is just like destroying, like it's literally tearing through people. And what I have found is that for people who are not vaccinated, Omicron is kicking their ass,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
which is really really sad.
yeah. It is. It's been a rough year, definitely, as far as like the pandemic goes. I don't know. It's as since it's been happening as long as it's been happening, we've had to really uproot and change our lives in a lot of ways. And
Still wearing masks,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, at work and everywhere you go, out in public, still wearing masks, and it's just something that has become like there's a lot of things that have become normal now that weren't normal before 2 years ago. And one of those things too, I mean, we've now been like regularly producing episodes of this podcast, and it was really like the pandemic that kind of like kicked our butts to start doing that.
Yeah, more regularly. Yeah. And we've had some big hit episodes this year, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Jumped our viewer counts, which has been really absolutely fantastic because I do love doing this.
We had our first Rue Girl.
Our first Rue Girl, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about that. And we actually promised ourselves for this year, well, cycle, kind of, more of a cycle, that we were going to do a lot more interviews, and we've really kept to that. We have at least one interview a month, which
We've done
cool.
a lot. I think something I want to do, so actually, well, let's do resolutions at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
We'll do resolutions for, like, what we want to see the podcast do, and then also just, like, if we have any personal ones, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, going back to the stuff this year, like, obviously I worked at Local, but I've talked about that a lot on the podcast already. What I want to talk about is stuff that was outside of Local. So, like, I did, when we did my cruise episode, when I got back from my cruise, and this thing was true, it's part of the reason I wanted to change my drag name was because I had always said in drag I wanted to make it on Drag Race, or I wanted to like perform on a cruise ship. And I performed on a cruise ship, so I feel like I've completed the journey of what Coco Gem Holiday was supposed to be for me. And so that's kind of why I wanted to change it. And with all the cancellations that have happened because of Local, like it's kind of like hindering me from that expression that I really want to have. And I don't love that. Like, and my artistry for the most part isn't necessarily going to change, but I feel like it'll give me options. I feel like who Coco was built out to be, especially over even this last year, is like so concrete. Like, like I can't divvy out, like I can't deviate from this path with this name and with this character. I'd like to be able to explore a little bit more my comedic side, and like, because I said online, I think probably like a month ago, I had 3 things that I might want to achieve this year, like focus real hard on becoming famous, going to the stand-up comedy route or whatever, and then there was like another one. And I really do like the stand-up. I've had good shows, I've had bad shows. I'm writing more jokes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's nerve-wracking. I'm not great at it, so it's like something I get to work at really hard. Also, the drag side of it is a lot easier because I don't have to like plan some fucking elaborate costume that I had to sew together, and like with hair for the gods, and like makeup that is just like that takes me 4 hours to put on, and like and whatever. Like with the stand-up side, I can be like, she looks all right. And that's like acceptable, like, which is kind of cool. And I've been kind of like, I felt really sexy and empowered recently at a show because I did like this cute little pedestrian look with my new hair, and I was just like, oh, I loved it. I was so in love with the look. That would never have flown at a drag show except for a walk around. I think I know what I'm gonna do with the name thing. I think what I'll do is my stand-up will be known by the new name. And any drag shows I do will be known as the old name. So, like, and then I'll create, like, an Instagram profile, like, that's really centered on the stand-up side and whatever, and take pictures of, like, a lot more pedestrian photos you wouldn't have on a drag show side. Because, like, that's the other... Because, like, they've been using more pedestrian photos of me for stand-up comedy posters. And so maybe that's how I do it.
I think that's a good idea.
And then if one blows up, then just kind of let the other one naturally fizzle. Like, honestly. See what happens.
How? Speaking of which, what are you wearing tonight?
So tonight I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt because I'm living in my fantasy.
Nice.
Though the t-shirt is from Hot Topic, it doesn't quite fit correctly, but it has a picture of a butterfly. What are you wearing?
Lovely. Well, I'm just wearing this lovely bohemian skirt.
Literally.
It's got like tassels on it. Might be a blanket. And then I'm topless.
Boobs. Just titties, everybody. Titties. Oh, I forgot to ask Donna, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, Coco, I will let you know after this brief commercial break.
It's a podcast with Coco and Donatella podcast. Tune into What They Tell You podcast with Coco and Donatella podcast.
Well, Coco, I'm feeling like it's a new year, so it's a new me. And
No.
I just have like my vision board ready to go
Oh,
for
God.
2022.
You're like, but this time from Pinterest, I decided instead of like pins, I would actually like use spit and gum and like.
Yeah. If you use your own DNA, it manifests quicker. But I have a question for you.
Sure.
If you could sum up 2021 in one word, what would it be?
Oh
For
my
you.
gosh, I have the word.
For you, like, what is it? A lesson you took away, or what is? Yes.
The
what was
word
the theme?
that I would. Well, the theme that I would do is so like there is a word for this when you've been. Oh, breaking point. That's what I was looking for. I feel like I've always burned the candle at both ends. I've always been super busy. I've always been hyper focused and aware of the things that I was doing. Limits. Breaking point. Limits would be good. I feel like I still haven't actually hit my limit, but I feel like I was consistently being bombarded with like if this would be a breaking point for me or not.
Yeah, it didn't seem like you really like had time to rest as like different crises were kind of going on in your life.
Yeah,
It was like one thing after another for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like for me, like I just feel like I learned I can handle a lot. That was great to know, and I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah.
Like don't ever want to be that busy or that bombarded with a bunch of BS at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think my word is kind of similar to that. Mine is boundaries. Because I think I became more aware, honestly, through therapy, I became more aware of my own boundaries and like how I needed to set them and how I needed to kind of reparent myself and take care of myself when it comes to like how I want to be treated by other people.
Yeah.
And I've really learned too that like people will show you how they want to like treat you and stuff in life too. Like I've learned that, you know, talk is cheap, including my own.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Talk really is cheap, including your own, and you got to really put those actions behind those words. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
This year, I was Miss Sweetheart 33 of Portland, with Adam, who's Mr. Sweetheart 33 of Portland, and I've done a lot of fundraising events this year, which have really fed my soul in a good way. Like I said, I didn't necessarily want to talk about just local stuff. Like being Miss Sweetheart was really cool. Like it was really great. And maybe I'll do a bonus episode where I explain my whole year as Miss Sweetheart, just in detail, the goods, the bads, and some drama, just to get some more viewerships. But so that also happened this year. And I also got a promotion this year because I'm an assistant IT manager at my job now, which is super cool. Making a lot more money, which is beautiful. This year we did get our housekeeper and our gardener this year as well, which has just honestly been a godsend.
Yeah.
Our housekeeper is just fantastic. I love her.
Yeah. She's great.
Yeah, she really is great. And so I've had a lot of ups. Like when it comes to like the negative sides, like outside of local stuff, like there hasn't been a lot outside of just rude, horrible drag queens in the community who are just mean to me for no damn reason.
Yeah.
Like if I like push all of that aside, like I had a couple of bad days at work, like things like that. Like my health stuff wasn't super great, but I'm working actively on that. So like if I take out all of that drama, like it's actually been a pretty great year.
Yeah.
It's just hard to have that perspective when you're living in it.
Yeah.
What about you?
It is. Are we talking about just like lessons that we've learned? Or...
Well, kind of like just different things throughout the year, because we only touched on a few things.
Yeah. Let's see. I visited my family this year, and that was good. It was good to have like really productive conversations
That's good.
with some of my family, and also to enforce my boundaries with family, which is good.
Yeah. You started the job you're at. You started actually.
Yeah, I started
this year.
I started working in the cannabis industry this year, and that's something that I've always wanted to do. And it's been really cool. It's been a nice experience. I got a promotion at one point. I or slash like a raise, and that was really cool.
You also got that electronic bike thing.
I did, and I haven't used it yet because the weather has not been great for it, and it's very big. Yeah, I have an electric bike, and then also one of the brakes isn't working on it, so I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. But until it's running at 100%, it's just gonna kind of hang out for a little bit.
Sitting behind our TV right
Uh-huh.
now.
So I got that to get around. You know, if I all of a sudden meet a guy that is, or a person that is really into like biking, and that becomes our hobby, and we just fall in love, then you know that's what it's there for, I guess.
You took some amazing photos at the beach drag thing that we
Yeah,
did this year.
that was
those
fun.
photos were super
To
cute.
drag me to the beach, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
You were hanging out with that one boy at the time.
Marcos.
That one,
Yeah, he texted me the other day,
yeah.
and I texted back, and then I didn't
Got
hear from
ghosted.
him.
Yeah.
It's probably nothing. I'm sure he's busy, but I also like take a while to text back in between texts to people. Like I will take at least a few hours to text back, because a lot of the times I'm just like not ready to text right away. Also, depression. So there's that.
Oh, that was funny. Also, depression. Sorry if I just needed to get closer to say it.
Yeah. Just needed to emphasize that.
You went through. Let's actually talk about this a little bit. You went through a few turmoil relationships this year, and it seems like they don't get you down as much as they used to, like even 3 years ago.
I don't invest myself in them like I used to.
Sounds weird to say, but I think the listeners know what you mean.
I feel like, well, I mean, it's the whole like fantasy bond thing, you know. Anyone when they're dating, and here's the thing, I used to think that I was like abnormal in the fact that I like fell for people like super hard. Here's the thing, everyone fucking does stupid shit like that, even if they're like well into their like almost 30s sometimes. I think I used to beat myself up because of it, because I'd be like, why am I like this? Why am I like this serial dater that like I'll invest a lot into these people, and then I end up getting ghosted, or like something happens. And you know, I have to admit too, like a lot of the time, especially when I was drinking and dating, like there were definitely toxic traits in me that would come out, but I'm definitely now working on them and addressing them. I'm still a healing person, and I'm still, you know, definitely like learning things about myself every day as I spend more time alone. But I don't know where I'm going with this anymore.
You know, the funny thing is, I actually think this is a terrible thing to say to a person, honestly, because like working on yourself is so important. But I actually think that some of them might be actually the people that you've dated since you've moved here. And let me let me explain a little more. So like, one of my closest friends has dated a few different guys. And I've seen the dynamic of dating in Portland. So Donna and I have never dated in a city that was more queer friendly.
Yeah.
Stay on board, listeners. This will be a second. So we've never dated in a city that's more queer accepting. You can hold hands in public without like necessarily worrying about being called a faggot when you're walking down the street.
Yeah.
Like you can go to restaurants, you can go to queer venues, you can go to queer events, and just like queer all day long, which is great. That's really, really wonderful. What I've learned from that is like, it's also like raised what people are wanting for themselves. And if it like, and gay people, the one thing that's not different in any gay culture in this country is that gay people think that they just deserve so much more than what they actually kind of do. And I know that sounds crappy, but it's true. Like gay people are like, oh yeah, I deserve to be a 10 and I'm a 4. Like, you know, like stuff like that. And So what I've been noticing actually from your stories and then kind of seeing the way that some of my other friends have dated in this city is that the guys are kind of trash sometimes.
Yeah.
In the gay community.
Honestly,
here.
I've added to that trash sometimes. The thing is, like, I get ghosted, but I've also been the ghostee. I've had poor communication, especially when I go through bouts of depression, and I, like, decide to get on, that's another thing is this has kind of finally been the year that I've, like, really put a pin in, like, deleting my dating apps and, like, not getting back on them. Like, I've actually taken time to, like, get away from them because I find that what I do is, like, I almost get a rush out of, like, getting the attention for, like, a short amount of time, and then the prospect of, like, actually taking the time to, like, go out and meet people and, like, get to know someone is exhausting. So I shut down and isolate myself.
Donna said a thing that's like I don't know how exactly she said it, but back in the day, she was like, I'm super tired of asking, it was like what your favorite color is or what your favorite movie is.
Small talk.
You're like, yeah, but it was like a specific example. And I was like, that's a really, because I even remember even in my hoe days back in my 20s, you still have to do the same thing, almost like initial dating. Like so sick and tired of caring what somebody's interests are.
And it's more so like get to know you type of stuff, And I think there's something great about getting to know someone as, like, time goes on.
Organically learning what someone's favorite color is great versus
not in forced situations. And
like, well, what kind of guys do you normally date? What kind,
also
like,
the questions on dating apps, filling out your fucking profile over and over again, and just, like, it's like, do I even know what I'm looking for? I don't know, like, it would be nice to have someone to cuddle with. It would be nice to have someone that would take the time to understand who I am as a person, and do the same to the person that is trying to get to know me. But...
Yeah, like it's three things I think in the dating phase. You want to know that somebody cares about listening about your day, a couple of shared interests, and if you're sad, they're not a piece of shit. Like, I feel like that is, like, dating as a whole for, like, the first few months. And I've noticed here, like, it's actually really I like list some of my friends who even are serial daters, not relationships but serial daters, will be telling me, they're like, yeah, I stopped talking to that guy. I'm like, why? They're like, it just, like, he was, like, looking for something and I wasn't looking for it, and we were just like, I'm like, what is this? Where's Waldo? Like, what are you talking about? And I know what they mean. Like, it's like I was more casual and they were more serious. I feel like that's probably a great bow to put this subject in. Is like, I feel like oftentimes in Portland, like, people are confusing what the other one's looking for, and even if you're both clear, it's like always a feeling. You're like, I feel like they want something more serious than what I've clearly stated I wanted, or they said that they want something serious but they're treating you very casually.
Yeah, I get that. Like, mixed signals.
Communication is dead here.
Yeah. I think the point I was trying to get around to earlier is that I used to feel a lot of shame for having these, like, little, like, flings, and them not lasting, like, a while. And I don't really feel that shame anymore. I think it's a natural part of being in your 20s is, like, kind of dating and feeling out what it is that you want and don't want. And
yeah, I mean, I didn't meet Adam. Me and Adam didn't start dating until I was 30.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's a lot of people that I've, like, heard stories from that they're like, they didn't even meet someone that, like, they shared the rest of their life with until they were in, like, their, like, early 30s. So it's not something that I'm, like, worried about or at all within myself. I mean, it's obviously something I want for myself in the future, but it's also, like, I'm really having a great time getting to know me, and I'm really having a great time just, like, kind of entertaining myself and not having another person do that,
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that.
I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of parts of me that were broken, and I was hurting for a lot of years. And when I stopped drinking, I recognized that I needed to be more present and heal a lot of the parts that I was kind of projecting onto other people. And I don't know. I feel like that takes time, and I just am at the start of it.
Yeah, I do feel like it takes time. And here's the thing, like the right person will also really respect that journey with you as you go through it,
Yeah.
right? Like because most people, which I tell this to everybody, if you think that you have to be a complete perfect person before you start dating, like you're never going to find anybody because we're constantly learning, constantly changing, especially with new challenges of becoming an adult, like with your health and your family and people passing away and like things that just naturally happen as you organically get older. So always be kind to yourself, focus on what you need internally, but then of course be open to the possibility of somebody. I like to say just pay attention to the person that's actually treating you well. Like me and Adam were friends
Yeah.
before we started dating. And I used to say to myself, I was like, it'd just be so easy if I dated him. So, like because he was the person who was just good to
Well,
me.
it goes back to like what we were saying. What I said earlier is like people will show you how they feel about you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's really accurate. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And I think that's especially important in dating because a lot of the times, especially for me, I would make up excuses for people. And it's like, you're so dumb. Like they're showing you how they're feeling about you, how they want to treat you. Like just believe them. Believe them when they
Just
show
believe
you.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When people show you who you are, show you who they are, believe them. It's a
Yeah.
very true quote, and I do live by that. So this year we did some of the other positives too. We did get to meet new friends. Like I did meet Babs technically in 2020, but we became really good friends in 2021. I met Lexi and Evan this year as well.
Yeah.
And we all went on a trip together, which was super fun to the
Went to
beach,
the beach.
which was beautiful. And
I want to do more of that this next year. I want to have more trips out to the beach. I want to go on more hikes. I want to be out and about more.
I want to go back on adventures, and the only reason that we didn't go that much this year is because I was working at local.
Yeah.
Autumn went with Austin and Stacy by themselves as kind of cute date trips, but like I didn't go on anything.
Yeah.
This next year I want to get back to that because like I have all these pictures now from like a year ago where we were on a mountain somewhere and we were on a beach and blah blah blah, and like
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that this year except for maybe a handful of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe if we're gonna get into the resolution section, not really resolutions, but kind of hopes too.
Yeah.
I would like to redo stuff I did in 2020 by going hiking and getting out into nature and being one with it and seeing the beach more than twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Some of my hopes. That's a big part of it is I'd like to be out in nature more. I would like to delve into other creative mediums more. I was painting today, so that was fun. I have some like acrylic paint on my hands. But I have materials to do like all sorts of other stuff. I'm wanting to get more into like the latex work. I have all the materials to start doing that. So that's something I want to look at doing. Wire wrapping, rock tumbling. I just want to like, I want to get into a lot of different types of crafting and become a little bit more like self-sufficient and have like skills that I could potentially like sell things to people for. So yeah, that's a big thing.
One of my hopes is I want to make it on Queens of the Universe. I would love to do that with my drag.
Queen of the universe.
Yeah, and then I also want to get better at stand-up.
Yeah.
I want to work at that. I started writing some jokes that were, as I've worked with queer comedians, they don't pull their punches, they go in fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I don't do that, and I would love to do that. And the only reason I always scale back from my jokes is because Adam doesn't necessarily love hearing about my hoe days, but I feel like I have a lot of like, because it's like relatable is how jokes are funny, and then also is like maybe punchlines and how you can shock comedy a little bit. And I think I could do things like that in straight audiences, like have these jokes that I think would work well.
Yeah.
And so I want to write, but the punchlines aren't there yet. They're not like hard hitting funny yet, and I would like to continue working on that. I love like because when I'm like I have a notepad, which a lot of comedians do, like where you see something or you remember something from your childhood, and you're like, oh, that's kind of funny, and I like write it down a little bit to see if I can somehow make it into a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to. So that's kind of something I want to work on. But my hope is to make it on Queens of the Universe. And another hope of mine is that I do want to be making over $100,000 before I'm 35, and I'm 30. Sorry, before I'm 36. I'm going to be 36 next year. I want to be making over $100,000 in my career.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And all those are goals. So the only hope, I guess, is Queens of the Universe. And then I'm hoping, here is a hope. I'm hoping that me and Adam can like really look at the picture of what it means for us to have children next year. My goal in life when I was 18 years old, it says I wanted to figure out how I was going to have children by 35. I don't know why I gave myself that stupid number, but as I've seen what happens when you get into your 30s and your 40s and how your body falls apart, it makes sense of why you want to have kids a little earlier so you're not dying when they're like needing all this energy from you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a grandpa dad. So next year I want to start talking about the picture of children. So hopefully by 37, we have a clear idea about how we're going to get there.
That's good. Yeah.
So that is a hope.
Yeah. Nice. One of the things that I want for the podcast is I want to do more interviews. And I also want to prepare better for the interviews. Just on my end, I want to have like questions ready to go. And, yeah, I want to have more like candid conversations. I want to be as authentic as possible on this podcast. I think that that's kind of what I've seen this as, is it's been like, I mean, here's the thing. I've probably said things on here that later I'll regret. I'm sure I have. But the thing is, like, I'm feeling and experiencing everything as I'm experiencing it. And this has been a nice little journal of quarantine times in Portland and living in a city for the first time after moving away from my hometown. And it's been nice. I think it's been something to kind of document this as we're going through it.
Yeah, I love that. I do think we should, what I would want for the podcast is to get, maybe a couple of weeks ahead and then just stay a couple of weeks ahead, which is easy enough to do. It just means recording a couple of episodes in one day, and just staying ahead of the curve, which would be great. And then also trying to get some more high profile interviews. Not saying that the ones that we're doing are bad, but I have a lot of friends who are famous in some capacity. And I'm actually not going to name any names because they might say no and that'll be embarrassing. But like, I do know people from like a lot of different fronts, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, me too. And I hope it turns into something beautiful, because I do want to keep doing the podcast. It's one thing that I'm really passionate about. I like seeing what happens. I like looking at the viewer counts. I like seeing people be interested in our story. I got to use the podcast for when everything with Local ended, and that was a really highly viewed episode.
Yeah, you get to explain your end of things. So
yeah, and people really cared about that.
Yeah.
I am going to create a marketing campaign. A lot of people don't know that we've interviewed quite a few people in the drag community here. And so I kind of want to create some marketing that says like, by the way, like we've interviewed all of these people. Yeah.
So check out their interviews and listen to their story. I think everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be able to interview as many people in our community as we've been able to.
Yeah, I super agree with that. So as that brings us to the end of our episode and our end of year review.
Yeah.
I'm going to end it with one of my resolution for the year is I am on a weight loss journey. I've lost 20 pounds. I'd like to actually continue that, not start one because you can never usually start it at the end of the year. But I want to continue my weight loss journey, and it's also the third day of Kwanzaa. So joyous Kwanzaa, everybody.
Yeah, joyous Kwanzaa. I would like to continue my schooling journey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
oh, you did that this year, yeah.
That's one thing I forgot to mention. I've been in school. So I'd really like to get down to business with school and make a lot of headway so then I don't have as much time left to finish, because I would like to be a professional counselor.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you could definitely offer people that service.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be president someday. All right, that brings us to the end of our episode, everybody.
Yes, thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.